Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're going to dive deep into the incredibly brilliant, self-regulating rules of nature, and we'll uncover the fascinating wild card that makes human beings act so wildly different from the rest of the world. I mean, if you've ever looked at a forest or watched a nature documentary and marveled at how perfectly everything just seems to work, and then looked at human society and wondered why things are so much more complicated for us, well, you are in the exact right place.
Let's just start right here with this really intriguing question. Because as we'll see, the rest of the universe operates on this highly predictable, totally locked-in biological track. But we humans, we tend to defy those rules. Think about it. A lion doesn't need to read a textbook to learn how to be a lion, right? And an oak tree doesn't attend seminars on how to grow its leaves. They just do it. But human beings? We are a completely different story.
So, here is our roadmap for today. First, defining nature's balance. Second, the four orders of nature. Third, the rules of conformance. And fourth, the human wild card, Sanskaar.
All right, jumping into section 1, defining nature's balance. What exactly is implied by the word nature?
Well, to really understand our place in the world, we first have to define it. And the source actually defines nature as literally everything. It's an infinite aggregate of mutually interacting units that range from massive, swirling galaxies all the way down to a single, invisible atom. We're talking about all the physical objects, solid, liquid, gas, the living, the non-living. Every mountain, every single drop of water, every bird in the sky, and every person is a unit in this vast, interacting collection.
And here is what's absolutely fascinating to me. Despite containing infinite units, nature intrinsically maintains a dynamic balance and self-regulation. There's no external manager out there telling the weather how to cycle water, or telling the forest how to balance its soil with the plant life, right? The law of nature just has this unique, built-in cause and effect system that allows it to regulate itself perfectly. The whole system just works.
Which brings us to section 2, the four orders of nature. Let's break down all these interacting units.
When you step back and look at this massive aggregate, you see this constant, mutually fulfilling cycle. The soil and the water provide nutrients to the plants. Then the plants decay, enrich the soil, and provide food for the animals. The animals then enrich the soil with their waste. They help pollinate the plants. You get the picture. Other than the human order, the other three orders are completely mutually fulfilling to each other by default. They exist in this seamless, almost effortless harmony.
So, to make sense of where we fit in, we can actually categorize all units into four specific orders. First up, we have the immense material order. That's your non-living units, like soil, water, and metals. Next, transitioning into the living stuff, we have the pranic, or bio order, which encompasses all your plants, shrubs, and trees. Then comes the conscious animal order, made up of animals and birds. And finally, the smallest grouping of the entire bunch, the human order.
Okay, so what actually separates these orders? It all boils down to their innateness, their fundamental qualities. The material order, well, it simply exists. The pranic order exists, but it also physically grows. Now, animals exist and grow, but they also possess an I, a consciousness that gives them a basic will to live. But humans? Actually, this is where it gets crazy. We exist, we grow, and we have an I, but our innateness goes one massive step further. We uniquely demand the will to live with continuous happiness. We aren't satisfied with just surviving, we want to understand things, and we desperately want to be happy.
Moving on to section 3, the rules of conformance. Basically, how does nature preserve its continuity?
Right, so how does nature guarantee that things act the way they're supposed to across generations? Well, for the pranic order, nature relies entirely on what is called seed conformance. The phrase from the text is literally, as the seed, thus the plant. This means a neem seed is always going to sprout a neem plant. It's a 100% guarantee. Every tiny piece of basic information about its leaves, its color, its bitter taste, it's strictly and perfectly locked inside that physical seed. It can't just wake up one day and decide to be an apple tree, you know?
And just like plants are completely locked to their seed, animals conform strictly to their breed or lineage. We call this breed conformance. So a cow is always like a cow, and a dog acts exactly like a dog. Their behavior is just passed down through their physical lineage. They live out this incredibly predictable, strict physical determinism. Nature maintains the continuity of animal species smoothly because, frankly, their behavior is pre-programmed right into their breed.
Which brilliantly sets up our ultimate question. I mean, if everything in the material, plant, and animal worlds follows these rigid physical rules of continuity, where seeds and breeds make all the decisions for them, where does that leave us? Why don't you behave exactly like your ancestors?
And that brings us to our final section, the human wildcard, Sanskaar, the ultimate exception to the biological rule.
So if you and I aren't bound by strict biology, what are we bound by? Well, the human order relies on this concept called Sanskaar. The source defines Sanskaar as the values a person gets at the time of their upbringing. This means our reality and our actions aren't just inherited biology. They are dynamically shaped by our environment, the media we consume, the education we receive, and our past memories, which all just sort of accumulate in our conscious I. We act according to our imagination, our desires, and our thoughts.
There's a profound shift when you look at how humans operate compared to everything else. While the material order has constitution conformance, plants have seed conformance, and animals are totally bound to breed conformance, humans operate entirely on Sanskaar conformance. The continuity of human conduct isn't preserved by our DNA. It's preserved by the transfer of right values and right understanding.
So the absolutely crucial takeaway here is this parallel. Just like we confidently say, as the seed, thus the plant, in the case of humans, we literally have to say, as the education, so the human. A human being's inputs, their environment, and their education become the literal seed that dictates their character and their conduct. Without the right education and the right values actively planted in our consciousness, we just cannot automatically fall into harmony like the rest of nature does. It doesn't happen by default for us.
All right, let's zoom out and wrap this up with our core takeaways. First, nature is an incredible, massive, self-regulating aggregate where the bottom three orders achieve perfect harmony through strict biological rules. But humans, we break the mold. Because we have that will to live with happiness, we are actively shaped by our inputs. Your consciousness, your I, conforms to your Sanskaar, not your physical biology. And this is exactly why we have to actively achieve harmony through right understanding and continuous value education.
Because you aren't stuck with the strict biological coding of a seed or a breed, you have amazing freedom, but also a ton of responsibility. You are the sum of your environment, the media you binge, and the choices you make in your conscious I. So my final question to you today is, what inputs are you allowing to build your consciousness right now? What Sanskara are you actively choosing to conform to? Think deeply about that and keep exploring.